She fell off a chair during the interview, but what she said after made the CEO love her instantly. She fell, not metaphorically, literally. Right there in front of the entire boardroom, the chair cracked beneath her and sent her crashing to the floor. Laughter followed, soft at first, then louder. The kind that bruises more than any fall ever could. And while most people would have hidden, she didn't. What she said next changed everything, especially for the CEO, who couldn't take his eyes off her after that. Before we continue, if you enjoy touching and inspiring stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's get back to the story. The chair hit the ground with a sickening crack, taking Emma Carter down with it in a tangle of satin and shock. For a moment, the room froze. Then came the laughter, short, sharp, polite, but it stung all the same. Board members exchanged glances. One of them coughed to stifle a chuckle. Another tilted their head as if mentally crossing her name off the list. And at the head of the long glass table sat Alexander Reed, CEO of the Reed-Hartley Group. His piercing blue eyes unreadable. Emma's cheeks were already burning before she fully realized she was on the floor. Her golden champagne blouse had twisted awkwardly. One of her nude heels had slipped off. Her cream skirt, thank heaven, was still in place. The room remained silent. Then came a voice, her own, quieter than she intended, but steady. Well, at least now the chair and I have something in common. We both cracked under pressure. A few soft laughs escaped around the table. Not cruel ones this time. She could almost feel the tension shift. Emma reached for her heel, slipped it back on, and stood up slowly. Her blouse was rumpled and her dignity was bruised, but her back was straight. She smoothed her skirt, tucked a curl behind her ear, and gave the room a small, self-deprecating smile. "I'm all right," she added, "but I'm not sure the chair can say the same." This time, even Alexander's lip twitched. Emma spotted the chair's mangled leg, one of the older models clearly cracked near the base. Not her fault. Still, the damage was done. She took a breath and turned to Alexander, lifting her chin slightly. "Would you mind terribly if I stand for the rest of the interview?" His voice was low and unexpectedly warm. "Be my guest." She nodded, folded her hands in front of her, and continued. 30 minutes later, Emma Carter found herself walking across the marble lobby, locket thudding lightly against her chest. Her breath caught somewhere between pride and panic. What had she just done? She'd bombed it, surely. Fallen, literally, in front of 10 of the most powerful executives in London. She was never getting a call back. Not from Reed Hartley, not from anyone. But still, something in the CEO's eyes. The way his expression softened, just slightly, when she cracked that joke. The way he actually listened as she spoke about adaptive branding for legacy retailers. And the locket she wore, that tiny gold oval tucked just above her heart, had stayed clasped the whole time. A quiet miracle. It had belonged to her mother, a woman who'd taught her that no matter how humiliating life could get, standing up again mattered more. Emma stepped into the cafe across the street, the same one she'd gone to after every failed interview over the past 6 months. This time, she ordered a chamomile tea. The barista, a woman with a cheerful lisp, slid a small complimentary lemon shortbread across the counter. "You look like someone who needs a soft landing today." Emma blinked, then smiled. "Thank you." She took the window seat, let the warm cup settle her nerves, watched the rain begin to fall. And that's when her phone buzzed. Reed Hartley Group subject, "Thank you for today, dear Miss Carter. Thank you for joining us. We'll be in touch soon." That was it. No warmth, no hint, just sterile professionalism. Until a second email followed from re@reedhartley.co.uk. Subject, "The chair, Ms. Carter." It was a faulty chair. You were not the fault. But your response? Unexpected. Refreshing. Coffee tomorrow? 10:30. My assistant will send detail. Alexander, her hands trembled slightly. Coffee? With him? She looked down at the locket again, thumb brushing its surface. Her mother once said, "You can't plan magic, Em, but when it shows up, be brave enough not to look away." The next morning, Emma arrived 10 minutes early. This time, her blouse was pressed to perfection. The gold locket gleamed faintly against the soft blush of her sweater. She wore flats. The cafe was quiet. Alexander already there, tucked in the corner, stirring a macchiato. No suit today, just a crisp white shirt and dark jeans. He looked up, expression unreadable. "You're early," he said. She smiled. "After yesterday, I figured I owed the universe some punctuality." He chuckled, actually chuckled, and motioned to the seat across from him. This time, she checked the legs before sitting. "No hidden sabotage today?" she asked dryly. His mouth twitched. "None planned." They sipped in near silence for a moment. The cafe buzz, filling the gaps. Emma studied him carefully. He was younger than she'd expected for a CEO, maybe mid-30s. Strikingly handsome, sure, but there was something else. A stillness behind his eyes, like someone used to hiding what they felt. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally. He nodded. "Why the second email?" He leaned back slightly, folding his arms. "Because I don't enjoy rooms where authenticity is punished." Emma blinked. "That's rare." "I know." There was a pause. Then, almost too quietly to hear, he added, "And because, after you fell, you stood up in a way most people never do." The words landed like a soft weight on her chest. Another sip, another heartbeat. Then he gestured toward her necklace. "That locket, it means something." Emma's fingers instinctively curled around it. "It was my mother's." He waited. "She passed away a year ago," she said softly. "Wore this every day, said it reminded her to keep her heart visible." "Even when it hurts," Alexander nodded once, eyes on hers. "Then you honor her very well?" And in that moment Emma saw it. A flicker, a gentleness beneath the crisp exterior, the kind that doesn't come from power, the kind that comes from pain. Before she could ask more, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then stood. "I have to step back into the storm," he said with a sigh that didn't match the suit, "but I'd like to see you again." Emma tilted her head. "As a candidate?" He hesitated. "As someone I'd like to know better." Another flicker of surprise in her chest, then a warm, cautious smile. "Well," she said, rising, "just make sure the next chair works." As he walked away, she watched the door close behind him, feeling something stir. Hope? No. Something deeper. Possibility. She stepped outside into the soft drizzle, the scent of roasted coffee still lingering on her sweater, and had just reached the corner when a voice called out from the curb. "Emma, wait!" She froze. Her heart dropped. There he was, Nathan, her ex-fiancé, holding a bouquet of lilies, a forced smile plastered across his face, and behind him, a man with a small camera fumbling to press record. The lilies were soaking wet, petals drooping like they'd already given up. Nathan was smiling too much, the kind of smile that says, "Don't make this harder than it has to be." The cameraman behind him had barely managed to lift his lens before Emma took 2 firm steps back. "Nathan," she said, voice flat. "What are you doing?" "I just thought—" He gestured at the flowers. The camera, the drizzle, like it all made sense together. "Maybe it's time we stopped pretending we didn't have something real." Real? Emma blinked. She hadn't seen him in 2 years, not since the week after her mother's funeral, not since the engagement ring was mailed back to her in a box with no note. "You brought a camera crew?" she asked, arms folded now, the chamomile cup still warm in her palm. Nathan glanced awkwardly over his shoulder. "It's for a small segment, nothing huge, local." They loved our story, high school sweethearts, engagement, tragic loss, redemption. It's a perfect arc." Emma stared at him, stunned. "You turned us into a pitch?" He laughed, a little too loudly. "I mean, Em, come on. You were always the one who said life was storytelling, right?" She said nothing. Her jaw tightened, and instinctively her fingers reached for her necklace, except this time she tucked it beneath her sweater. Out of sight. Nathan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I saw the video," he said, "from the interview. You falling, then joking. The whole thing's trending on that finance startup page. You're kind of everywhere." Emma's stomach turned. "You're here because I went viral?" "I'm here," he said carefully, "because I realized I miss you." "No, you miss the version of me that makes you look good." His expression faltered just for a second. Before he could recover, a man passing by accidentally knocked the bouquet from his hand. Lilies scattered across the wet pavement, and the cameraman swore under his breath. Emma took the opportunity. "Goodbye, Nathan." She turned and walked quickly down the street, the chamomile tea sloshing in her cup, her pulse racing in her neck. By the time she reached her flat, Emma had discarded the chamomile tea and was clutching the empty cup like it had answers. The flat was quiet, painfully quiet, and still carried traces of her mother. The floral throw on the couch, the faint scent of lavender in the air. The small china dish by the sink where her mother used to drop her rings. She set the cup down, undid her coat, and let the stillness wrap around her. Then she opened her laptop. Her inbox had 20 new emails, most of them junk, most of them. But one, near the top, caught her eye. From Diana Hartley, readhartley.co.uk, subject, RE Media Inquiry, Emma Carter. She clicked. "Hi, Emma. Hope you're well. We're receiving multiple press requests asking for statements regarding your interview moment. Some outlets are spinning it into a girl boss versus corporate narrative, which is tricky. Alexander thought it best to ask you directly. Would you like to make a short personal statement for the company's social channels? Optional, of course. Let us know. Diana Hartley, head of PR." Emma leaned back in her chair. So it was true. The fall, the joke. It had gone viral. Her hands itched. Her instinct was to hide, to disappear again, like she did after her mother died, after Nathan left, after everything felt like too much. But she was tired of disappearing. She reached for the locket again, held it in her palm. Then she opened a blank document and started typing. The video went live the next afternoon. Just a quiet 1-minute clip. Emma seated this time, calm blouse, pulled back hair, no ring light, no makeup team, just her. "I fell during my interview, literally. It wasn't graceful, it wasn't planned, it just happened. But sometimes the way we rise tells a better story than how we fall." She smiled gently. Her fingers clasped near her necklace. "I'm grateful to Reed Hartley for giving me the chance to rise." It ended there. No hashtags, no dramatic music. And the comments poured in. Dignified and brilliant. This woman needs to run for something. Proof that authenticity still has a place in corporate spaces. Emma watched it only once, then closed her laptop. Her phone buzzed. Alexander Reed. Text beautifully said, "Proud of you." She read it twice, then once more. And just as she smiled, a second message came in, from an unknown number. "Nathan, was that really necessary?" She exhaled slowly, then deleted the message without replying. That evening, she met her neighbor, Mrs. Kavinsky, in the hallway, a widow with too many cats and a soft spot for lemon cake. They talked about the video while watering plants. The old woman gave her a gentle pat on the arm and said, "Your mom would have been proud, you know." Emma smiled, blinking back the tears that came too fast. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear that. They shared a slice of cake in her kitchen, mismatched mugs, chipped plates, powdered sugar on the tablecloth. And Emma laughed for the first time in days when one of the cats stole her napkin and ran. Later, as she was cleaning up, another message came through. Diana, PR. Alexander would like to invite you to the strategy dinner next Friday, board members only. But he insists, no pressure. Emma stared at the screen, heartbeat fluttering. Strategy dinner. With him. She typed 3 words back. Emma, I'll be there. And as she turned off the lights, the bouquet of lilies Nathan had tried to hand her flashed in her mind again, but not for the flowers. For what she'd seen behind him just for a second before walking away. A woman, brunette, watching from a parked car. And if she wasn't mistaken, holding her phone up as if recording. The invitation said business formal, but Emma Carter stared at her reflection, wondering what that actually meant when the dinner was held in a chandelier-lit ballroom reserved for billionaires and board members. She'd tried on 3 outfits, all elegant, all safe, but none of them made her feel like her, not the her that had risen from a broken chair in front of a room full of people, not the her that had gone viral for being honest in a moment of total vulnerability. In the end, she chose a navy blue dress, simple, long-sleeved, fitted at the waist. She wore the gold locket outside the neckline this time, visible and intentional. She didn't hide anymore. At least, that's what she told herself. The Reed Hartley Strategy Dinner was being held at the Langley Hall Hotel, a place so expensive Emma once passed it just to peek inside the lobby chandeliers. Tonight, she wasn't passing by. She was walking through the front doors. The maitre d' smiled when she gave her name, as if he'd already been told she was someone to be noticed. As she was led into the main room, a soft hush fell. She felt it, eyes glancing her way, curious, measuring, the woman from the viral clip. The standing candidate, the accident. She held her shoulders a little straighter. Then she saw him. Alexander, standing near the fireplace talking to 2 senior board members. He wore black, no tie, collar open, suit tailored with alarming perfection. He saw her before she reached him, and when he did, something subtle changed in his expression. His voice lowered. His body turned slightly in her direction, like she was part of the conversation before she even arrived. Emma, he said warmly, you made it. I did, she answered, and for some reason her voice felt steadier than she expected. He introduced her to the others, both senior VPs. One of them made a joke about chairs, which she smiled politely at but didn't return. She'd already turned the joke into power once. No need to do it again. Dinner was served in courses, caviar on toast points, a citrus salad with shaved fennel, then a slow-roasted duck breast in some kind of wine glaze Emma couldn't pronounce, but secretly loved. She listened more than she spoke, observing the way the board navigated conversation like a chess match. Polite moves, subtle jabs, veiled compliments. She noticed that Alexander only leaned in when Emma said something. Not always, just when it mattered. Halfway through the evening, someone new arrived. A woman in a striking white pantsuit, dark brunette hair, tall, commanding presence. She kissed Alexander on the cheek, briefly, formally, but didn't smile when she looked at Emma. This is Cassandra Hartley, he said, his tone shifting. Our legal director and co-founder. Ah, Hartley, the other half of Reed Hartley. No relation to Diana Hartley from PR, Alexander added quickly. The shared last name was just coincidence. Emma stood and extended a hand. Emma Carter, she said. Pleasure to meet you. Cassandra's eyes dropped to the gold locket resting against Emma's dress. Her lips curved, not into a smile, but something more restrained. I've heard all about you. Emma nodded, unsure whether that was a compliment or a warning. Cassandra sat beside Alexander, but kept her gaze drifting toward Emma during dessert. Not hostile, just watching. After dinner, the group dispersed into smaller conversations. Emma found herself near the balcony, nursing a flute of sparkling water. Alexander appeared beside her. You did well, he said. I didn't say much. Exactly, she laughed quietly. I don't belong here. He turned slightly toward her, one hand in his pocket. You don't yet, that's different. Her gaze dropped. Cassandra doesn't seem thrilled about my presence. He hesitated. She protects the firm. That includes protecting me, sometimes more than I ask her to. Is she the kind that checks your calendar or chooses who gets in the room with you? He didn't answer that, but the silence spoke volumes. I can hold my own, Emma said. I never doubted it. They stood quietly for a moment, the sound of laughter and cutlery in the background. Then Alexander said something she didn't expect. My mother wore a locket just like that. I haven't seen one in years. Emma's fingers brushed over the gold pendant. My mom's. I wear it when I'm scared. Makes me feel like she's watching. Alexander's expression softened. Then, tonight she's proud. Something shifted between them, something fragile and unsaid. And before either of them could give it words, a waiter approached, holding a folded note. Miss Carter, someone left this for you at the front desk. She unfolded it slowly. It was short, blocky handwriting. Not everyone here is who they seem. Watch your back, especially around cameras. There was no signature. Emma read it again, eyes narrowing, and when she glanced up across the room, she caught a glimpse of Cassandra, leaning toward someone with a phone in her hand. Recording? No, just texting. Maybe, or maybe not. The note hadn't left her mind. Emma kept it folded in the inside pocket of her coat, tucked near her chest as if proximity would help her make sense of it. She'd reread it twice on the cab ride home, once before bed, and again in the morning, staring out her kitchen window as the kettle hissed. Not everyone here is who they seem. Watch your back, especially around cameras. Who wrote it? And more importantly, why now? She had no answers, only questions, and the distinct hollow ache of knowing she'd been watched without knowing by whom. Monday morning arrived with a chill. Emma stepped in to read Hartley HQ with more caution than confidence. She was no longer just the girl who fell off the chair. She was now the girl who'd been invited to the board dinner. The girl Alexander Reed had personally escorted into a room full of people paid to be smarter, sharper, and more polished than her. The receptionist greeted her by name. The elevator seemed faster than usual. As she stepped into the 17th floor conference suite, a young assistant handed her a folder. Inside, her temporary project assignment. Brand Equity Revival, Hartley Home Division, the assistant said with a polite smile. Mr. Reed asked that you start here. It was a real project, not a test, not an observation task, a full branding initiative with measurable impact. And in that moment, Emma felt something rise quietly in her chest. Not pride, exactly, but presence. She belonged here, maybe not in every room yet, but in this one. 2 hours into her project briefing, a knock came at the glass wall of the meeting room. Cassandra, poised, pressed, not a hair out of place. She didn't wait for permission, just opened the door and stepped inside. Emma, she said, with a tone as smooth as it was unreadable, walk with me? The request wasn't really a question. Emma stood, heart steady, and followed. They walked in silence down the hallway, their heels tapping in unison. Cassandra didn't speak until they reached the executive lounge, far enough from ears, but close enough to be civil. You're settling in quickly, Cassandra said, pouring herself a cup of tea. Not everyone gets this far. Emma offered a quiet smile. I'm aware. Cassandra studied her over the rim of her cup. You have a voice people remember. It's a useful thing, but dangerous if you're not careful. Emma didn't reply. So, Cassandra continued, setting her cup down, let me offer you something that most newcomers don't get. Perspective. Emma's brows lifted slightly. Go on. There are people in this building who've waited years for their shot, who've trained, sacrificed, kept their heads down. You arrived through a fall, an accident, and now you're in Alexander's inner circle. I didn't ask to be. But you are, Cassandra said, her voice sharper now, which means eyes are on you, some curious, others less so. Emma's stomach twisted. Are you one of them? Cassandra paused, then smiled, thinly. Let's just say I protect this company and Alexander. Both matter to me deeply. For a second, the air in the room shifted. And then, just as Emma turned to leave, Cassandra's eyes dropped to the gold locket at her chest. Your necklace, she said suddenly. It's quite sentimental. Emma's fingers curled around it instinctively. She wore it every day, Emma said. My mother. Without asking, Cassandra reached out and gently touched the locket. A brief moment. Cold fingertips brushing the gold oval. Beautiful, she murmured. Be careful where you wear your heart. Some places don't deserve it. Later that afternoon, Emma found herself working from the rooftop garden, a quiet space few people used. The city stretched out before her like a living machine. Trains, cranes, shifting clouds. She needed the distance, the fresh air, the space to breathe. She was halfway through sketching a rebranding idea on her tablet when she heard footsteps. Alexander. He was holding 2 coffees. White mocha, he offered, holding one out. Emma accepted it with a nod. Is this bribery? It's peacekeeping, he said, taking the seat across from her. Cassandra spoke with you today. She did? And? She warned me, Emma said, wrapping her hands around the cup, that I'm being watched, that I arrived too fast, that I'm in your inner circle. Alexander's brow twitched. Did she touch your necklace? Emma blinked. Yes. Why? He didn't answer right away, just looked out at the skyline, jaw tense. She's not wrong about the attention, he said finally, but she is wrong if she thinks that's a reason to shrink. Emma looked at him, really looked. There was something tired beneath his surface. Something no tailored suit could smooth out. Have you known her long? She asked. Since university. She was my father's favorite mentee. Became family when I had none left. And now? She wants to protect me, but her version of protection doesn't leave much room for people like you. People like me, she asked, half amused. People who remind me what real looks like? The words hung there, quiet but heavy. Emma looked away. Her thumb traced the rim of her coffee lid. Before she could speak, Alexander leaned forward, voice low. There's a partner retreat next weekend. Hartley Estate, just outside Oxford. It's private, quiet, but important. And I want you to come. She blinked. That's sudden. I want them to see you beyond the headlines, she hesitated. Or do you? Alexander's gaze didn't waver. Both. She nodded slowly, her heart doing strange things inside her chest. I'll think about it. And just as the moment softened between them, her phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number, nice rooftop, smile more, you're on camera. Emma froze, and from the corner of her eye, far below on the adjacent building's balcony, a shadow moved. Emma didn't sleep that night. She lay still in her narrow bed, the note from Cassandra echoing in her head. The text from the unknown number burned into her thoughts like static on a screen. Nice rooftop, smile more, you're on camera. She'd checked the adjacent building online. Law offices, finance firms, nothing obviously suspicious. But there had been someone, a silhouette, standing alone on the 15th floor terrace across from her, watching. She wanted to believe it was coincidence. But deep down, she knew better. This wasn't a coincidence. This was surveillance, and someone wanted her to know it. The next morning, she wore her hair tied back, blazer buttoned high, the gold locket tucked beneath the fabric for the first time since the interview. She hated hiding it. But something about Cassandra's touch, the casual way she'd reached for the necklace, as if testing its weight, still unsettled her. Emma kept her head down in the elevator, no small talk, no distractions. When she reached her desk, A single manila envelope sat waiting, no sender, no name. She opened it with slow, deliberate hands. Inside, a printout of her interview fall, a still frame of her midair, eyes wide, mouth open. Below it, the caption, "Falling for the job," or for the boss. Someone had circled her locket in red ink. Her stomach turned. She folded the image and slid it into her bag. Not out of fear, but out of control. She wouldn't let whoever sent it see her react. That was what they wanted. A crack. Instead, she opened her laptop and got to work. By lunchtime, Alexander appeared at her office door. No coffee this time. Just him, standing in the doorway, one hand on the frame. "I've arranged a car," he said, "for the retreat." She looked up. "So, you assumed I was coming?" "I hoped." There was a pause. Then Emma stood and stepped around the desk, arms crossed. "Tell me honestly," she said. "Why am I being watched?" Alexander's jaw tightened. "What happened?" She hesitated, then pulled the photo from her bag and held it out. He looked at it, and for a moment his expression didn't change, but his silence spoke more than words. "Is this Cassandra?" she asked softly. He shook his head. "No. She's strategic, not cruel. This feels personal." "From who, then?" "I don't know," he said, "but I will find out." Emma looked at him. Really looked. Not the CEO, not the polished public face, but the man. And for the first time since she met him, he looked cornered. "I don't want you getting dragged into this," he said finally. "You've worked too hard." "I'm already in it," she said. "And you're the one who brought me to that dinner, the one inviting me into your world." Alexander exhaled and ran a hand through his hair. "Then let me protect you properly," he said. "Come to Hartley Estate. It's where I see who people really are." Her phone buzzed. Another message. "Unknown number. You should decline the invitation. Some things don't survive the countryside." Emma turned the screen to Alexander. His expression darkened. "Whoever this is, they're watching us both." That night, Emma packed carefully. She chose a soft burgundy sweater, a pair of black jeans, and the only pair of boots she owned that didn't hurt after 5 minutes. She debated the necklace. Out or in? Visible or guarded? She left it tucked beneath the sweater. Some part of her didn't want to give these ghosts any more power. She texted her neighbor, Mrs. Kavinsky, to water her plants and check the mail. The older woman replied instantly with a string of heart emojis and a reminder, "Don't let rich people make you feel small." Emma smiled. It was the kind of sentence her mother would have said, right before shoving a shortbread cookie in her purse. The drive to Hartley Estate took 2 hours, through London's grey cityscape, into rolling green hills, and finally down a winding private road lined with birch trees that looked like ghosts holding hands. The car stopped in front of a grand stone manor, elegant, old, and intimidating. Read Hartley's historic country house. Emma had seen it once in a financial article. Now she was walking up its steps. Alexander opened the door himself. No butler, just him. He looked different here, less sculpted, softer around the edges. His shirt sleeves were rolled, and the top buttons were undone. He smiled faintly. "Welcome to the family drama." Emma stepped inside. The interior was warm, with dark wooden beams, soft yellow lighting, and the faint scent of firewood. He took her coat, gestured toward the drawing room. "You're not the first guest to be nervous here," he said, "but you might be the first one to challenge Cassandra and survive." Emma raised an eyebrow. "So this is a test?" "No," he said. "This is the part where I stop pretending I'm not afraid of losing control." The sentence hung in the air like fog. She said nothing. Not yet. But when he reached to hang her coat, his fingers brushed the edge of the gold chain beneath her sweater. He paused, then met her eyes. "You stopped wearing it out." "I didn't want it to be touched again without permission." Alexander nodded once, then quietly, reverently, he adjusted the collar of her sweater so that the locket peeked just above the edge, visible once more. You shouldn't have to hide what matters. And before she could say anything else, a voice rang out from the hallway. She's here then? It was Cassandra, and this time she wasn't alone. Two men followed behind her, older, powerful-looking, and one of them was holding a folder with Emma's name written across the front in black marker. The name on the folder was unmistakable. Emma Carter, written in heavy black strokes across the front, bold and cold like a verdict. Cassandra stood just behind the two men, arms loosely crossed, a faint smile on her lips. It wasn't cruel, and not exactly, but it had sharp edges. Alexander's posture shifted instantly. He stepped slightly in front of Emma, not protectively, but intentionally, like a buffer between her and whatever storm was brewing. "Let's take this to the study," he said calmly. The taller of the two men, white-haired, ruddy-faced, with a voice like gravel, nodded. "Good idea. I'd prefer some privacy." Emma glanced once more at the folder. The way he held it, not as if it contained something confidential, but something controlled. As she followed them into the study, the warmth of the manor gave way to a cooler room. Tall windows, dark oak shelves, leather chairs. A fire crackled in the hearth, too low to compete with the tension now filling the space. Alexander gestured for Emma to sit. She did, spine straight, hands calm on her lap. The older man opened the folder, pulling out several pages, photos, documents, an old LinkedIn profile, even an obituary clipping. Emma recognized it instantly. Her mother's. She felt the heat rise to her face. He tapped the paper twice. "You've had quite the year," he said without introduction. "Career gaps? Financial distress? No references from your last full-time employer? And yet, here you are." Emma didn't flinch. "Here I am." The second man, quieter, thinner, with sharp eyes, spoke next. "We're not here to attack you, Ms. Carter. We're here to understand how someone with this background is being groomed to step into high-level discussions." Alexander cleared his throat. "She's not being groomed. She's being heard. There's a difference." "Is there?" Cassandra's voice floated in from near the doorway. She hadn't sat. "Because from the outside, it does look like something's being accelerated." Emma looked directly at her. "If you think I'm a risk, ask me what you want to know. I have nothing to hide." Cassandra held her gaze for a moment too long. Then, "Who sent you the note?" Emma blinked. "You assume someone did." "We know someone did," Cassandra said. "We monitor threats to our team, especially when they relate to Alexander." Emma studied her. "You mean you monitor threats to his image?" Cassandra's lips tightened. "Same thing." The older man raised a hand. "Let's stay on topic. Ms. Carter, how do you respond to the concern that you're here not because of talent, but because of timing? A fall, a viral moment, proximity to power." Emma let the words settle. She looked down briefly, not in submission, but in clarity. Then she reached up and gently adjusted the locket around her neck, letting it rest where everyone could see it. "My mother used to say," she began softly, "that sometimes life pushes you into rooms before you feel ready, not because you're unworthy, but because someone in that room needs you." She paused. "I didn't fall to impress anyone. I fell because the chair broke, but I stood up in front of 10 people who weren't planning to see me at all, and I stayed. I spoke, and I earned that moment." The second man leaned forward. "And the viral clip? I didn't post it," Emma replied calmly, "but I won't apologize for people connecting with something real." Silence. Alexander watched her, his hands folded, saying nothing, but his eyes never left her face. The first man eventually nodded. "We'll continue this another time." He closed the folder, but not before Emma noticed one final page left at the bottom. A still frame from the dinner. Alexander looking at her. Someone had clipped and captioned it. "Too close, too soon." They left the room without ceremony. Cassandra lingered behind for a moment. "You're composed," she said. "I've had practice." "You're brave," Emma tilted her head, "and you're not used to that in women who weren't invited." That caught Cassandra off guard, just for a second. And then, for the first time, her smile reached her eyes. Only slightly, but it was real. "Don't mistake my caution for cruelty," she said, "but also don't mistake kindness for immunity. This world doesn't forget." Emma stood slowly. "Neither do I." And with that, Cassandra left. Later that evening, Emma found herself in the Manor library, tucked between floor-to-ceiling books and the scent of something old and comforting. A small tray had been left for her: soup, bread, and honeyed tea. The kind of meal that made you feel safe without realizing it. She took a spoonful, and for a brief moment, the weight in her chest eased. She thought of her mother's kitchen, rain on the windows, the same kind of silence. Alexander appeared quietly, leaning on the doorframe. "How are you holding up?" She looked up, a little shaken, but upright. He walked in, sat across from her. "I'm sorry they came at you like that." "Are they always like that?" "Only when they feel power shifting." Emma set down her spoon. "Did you know they had my mother's obituary?" He hesitated. "No, that crossed a line." She nodded, holding his gaze. He reached across the table, not for her hand, but for the locket. With slow, careful fingers, he held it between them. "She mattered to you." "She still does. She'd be proud." Emma smiled gently. "You say that like you know her." "No," he said. "I say that because I know you." She looked at him for a long time. Something was changing between them. Not fireworks, not fantasy, something deeper. And just as she opened her mouth to speak, a knock sounded at the door. One of the estate staff stepped in, holding a plain white envelope. "For Ms. Carter," he said, delivered anonymously. Again. She took it slowly. Inside was a photo, black and white, low quality. Emma in the cafe. From her very first meeting with Alexander, captioned in typed font, "You've been watched since day one." Emma stared at the photograph. She recognized the angle, a corner table at Cafe Norbury, where she'd first met Alexander outside the boardroom, where he had offered her coffee and curiosity. She'd been sitting at the window, hands wrapped around a cup, looking out as rain trickled down the glass. The image was grainy, black and white, taken from outside. Beneath it, a typed message. "You've been watched since day one." No name, no logo, no signature. Just silence pressing in all around her. She didn't say anything at first, just handed the envelope to Alexander, whose face darkened as he scanned the photo and message. "Someone's been documenting our meetings," she said, her voice low but steady. He looked up. "No, they've been documenting you." Emma sat back in the chair, the weight of it all starting to settle on her shoulders. "Why me? I'm not a threat. I don't have power here." Alexander didn't answer right away. His gaze lingered on the photo. "You do," he said quietly. "That's why it's dangerous." She frowned. "Dangerous to whom?" He didn't reply. Instead, he stood and crossed to the fireplace, rubbing the back of his neck. There was something restless in the way he moved now, not rehearsed like the CEO Emma had first seen, but human, uncertain. "I've been watched before," he said. "It comes with the job." "The name, the shares. But this feels different." Emma's eyes stayed on him. "You think it's coming from inside?" He hesitated, just long enough for her to know the answer. "I've kept my circle small," he said, "but I made a mistake. I thought I could outgrow legacy politics. Turns out some ghosts don't leave quietly." Emma looked down at the locket resting on her chest. She touched it, not nervously but almost protectively. "This isn't just about me falling out of a chair, is it?" "No," he said softly. "It never was." Later that night, after the staff had retreated and the fire in the library burned lower, Emma sat alone by the window, wrapped in a knitted throw. She was supposed to be reviewing branding materials for the Hartley Home campaign. but her eyes kept drifting back to the envelope. There was something else in it. She was sure of it now. The edge of a second paper, folded between the cardboard lining. She peeled it gently, and there it was. Another note, this one handwritten, a different message. You're not the first woman they've tried to push out, just the first who stood back up in public. Her pulse quickened. Whoever this was, they weren't just warning her, they were rooting for her. She pulled the lamp closer, studying the handwriting. Sharp angles, consistent slant. Female maybe, older? She wasn't sure, but it felt deliberate. There was a feeling behind it, not fear, not threat, solidarity, and it changed something. She folded the note and slipped it back into the envelope. Then she stood and crossed the hall to Alexander's study. He looked up when she knocked. Still in the same shirt, sleeves now rolled higher, eyes rimmed with fatigue. "You need to see the second note," she said, holding it out. He read it twice, then looked at her. "This isn't just someone trying to scare you," he said. "It's someone inside, someone who's seen how this plays out before." Emma nodded. "They want me to stay quietly. And if you don't, then I become a problem." Alexander closed the folder on his desk. "Maybe it's time you do become a problem," he said, half smiling, "but on your terms." The next morning, the estate staff had prepared breakfast in the east veranda. Coffee, poached eggs, fruit, scones. Emma arrived before most of the guests. The sky was pale blue, the air clean. For the first time since her fall, she didn't feel like she was bracing for impact. Alexander joined her, coffee in hand. They didn't speak for a few minutes, just the soft clinking of spoons, the flutter of napkins in the breeze. Then he said, "You calm the room, you know that?" She glanced at him. "You mean I don't fit in?" "No," he said. "I mean you make it harder for people to keep pretending. That unnerves them." She looked out across the hills. "What if I'm tired of proving myself?" "Then don't. Just be." She let the words settle, let them land. A small moment, but hers. She sliced into the scone and passed half to him. "Call it a truce." He accepted it, brushing her hand briefly, unintentionally, but not insignificantly. Their eyes met, and held. That afternoon, while walking alone near the garden wall behind the estate, Emma's phone buzzed again. No number, just a file attachment, a video. She pressed play. It was grainy footage, surveillance style. No sound. The hallway from the strategy dinner, Cassandra. Leaning in close to one of the board members, the thinner one, sharp-eyed, slipping something into his coat pocket. And in her other hand, a folded white envelope, the same kind used to deliver Emma's anonymous notes. Emma watched the video again. Cassandra, the envelope, the exchange, the way she moved, precise, effortless, too practiced to be innocent. The file had come from a hidden number, no text, no explanation. But the footage spoke volumes. The same envelope used in the threats, slipped carefully into a board member's pocket at the strategy dinner. Cassandra was orchestrating something, but why? Maybe the envelope hadn't been a threat at all. Maybe it was a warning, her way of tracing whoever had been sending the cruel messages without tipping them off. Emma closed the video, tucked her phone into her coat pocket. She didn't want to show Alexander yet, not without being sure. He trusted Cassandra even if he didn't always like her methods. And if Emma misplayed this, she might not only lose his trust, she might lose the ground she had finally earned. So she waited, watched, and prepared. After lunch, Cassandra invited Emma for a walk in the rose garden. The request was polite, too polite. Emma accepted. The path curved between manicured hedges and ancient stone benches. The air smelled of late summer, lavender, rain, and something old beneath the soil. "You're settling in," Cassandra said, adjusting her silk scarf. "I am," Emma answered. "You sound surprised." "I'm not," Cassandra said, glancing sideways, "just observant." They walked in silence for a moment. Then Cassandra gestured toward the pendant resting just above Emma's collarbone. "That locket again." "You wear it like armor." Emma smiled gently. "Maybe it is. It draws attention, you should know that." "I'm used to attention I didn't ask for." "And now?" Cassandra asked, stopping beside a statue of some long-forgotten Hartley ancestor. Emma turned to face her. "Now I choose when to stand still and when to speak." Cassandra studied her for a long beat. Then, in a voice lower than before, she said, "Power isn't about being right, Emma. It's about timing." Emma let the words sit between them. "I'm learning," she replied, steady. "But I don't play games I haven't agreed to." Cassandra's smile didn't change, but her eyes did. A flicker. Recognition. Maybe. Or warning. "Smart," she said. "Just don't wait too long. Some doors only open once." That evening, during a fireside discussion about brand positioning with key partners, Emma noticed something strange. The sharp-eyed board member from the video, the same man Cassandra had passed the envelope to, kept glancing her way. Not leering, not curious, just watching. When Alexander asked a question directly to the room, the man interjected quickly, "I think Ms. Carter should answer. Her public instinct seems sharp." There was a ripple of polite laughter, but Emma saw it for what it was, a test. She didn't flinch. "I believe instinct only works if it's grounded in truth," she said. "Public trust isn't earned by sounding clever. It's earned by being clear." Alexander looked at her, a quiet flash of approval in his expression. The board member didn't reply, but his mouth pulled into a tight, unreadable line. Later, back in the guest room, Emma paced. She replayed Cassandra's words. The note, the envelope, in the video. She was no longer afraid, not exactly. She was tired of dodging glances and reading between lines. Her mother once told her, "The moment they expect you to shrink, grow taller." She reached for her phone, opened her notes, and began to write. A speech, a letter, She didn't know yet, but something was coming. She could feel it, a reckoning, and she wouldn't enter it unprepared. Before bed, she walked to the library to return a book she'd borrowed. The house was still. A soft storm tapped gently at the windows. As she stepped inside, she paused. Two voices. Low, urgent. She recognized them, Cassandra and Alexander. She couldn't see them from the hallway, but their words carried just far enough. "You're compromising yourself," Cassandra said. "We've worked too hard to hand over narrative control to sentiment." "She's not sentiment," Alexander said. Voice tighter than she'd ever heard. "She's substance, and we need that more than spin." "She's unpredictable." "She's real." Silence. Then Cassandra's voice, quieter now. "Do you care about her?" Emma's breath caught. Alexander didn't respond right away. Then, with quiet certainty, "Yes?" Emma stepped back into the hallway, not because she didn't want to hear more, but because she'd heard enough. Not just the confession, but the way he said it, like it terrified him. She didn't sleep that night, not from fear, but from a growing realization that she wasn't the same woman who'd walked into that interview 2 weeks ago. She wasn't trying to belong anymore. She already did. And now it was time to decide what she would do with that place. Morning came gray and wet. Emma dressed simply. Navy blouse, black slacks, flats. No statement, no mask. Just Emma. She walked down to breakfast, where a smaller group had gathered. Cassandra wasn't there. Neither were the board members. Just a few executives and Alexander, seated at the far end, sipping coffee, looking up just as she entered. Their eyes met, and for the first time, she smiled first. Before he could cross to her, one of the estate staff approached with another envelope, same white color, same plain design. Emma took it calmly. No hesitation. Inside, not a threat, but a photograph. This time of Cassandra, not recent. It was dated 8 years ago. Standing beside a younger woman, dark-skinned, soft-eyed, smiling, with a Reed Hartley badge on her blouse. On the back, a handwritten line, "Ask her what happened to Helena." The photograph trembled slightly in Emma's hand, not from fear, but from the weight of what it carried. Two women, smiling. One was clearly Cassandra, younger, less guarded, her hair pulled back simply, eyes brighter than Emma had ever seen. And beside her, a woman Emma didn't recognize, Helena. But the connection between them in the photo was unmistakable. There was warmth, maybe even affection. On the back, the message, "Ask her what happened to Helena." The writing was different from the other notes, less rigid, more personal. And for the first time, Emma felt something shift inside her, not just a need for answers, but the sense that someone out there wanted her to finish a story that had been buried. She slipped the photo carefully into her notebook and glanced across the breakfast table. Alexander was still watching her. She didn't speak, not yet. But he saw the change in her eyes. He stood, walked to her, leaned in low, voice hushed. "What is it?" Emma hesitated then, "Not here." They met again in the study. The room still scented with old paper and quiet authority. Emma closed the door behind them and opened her notebook slowly. She slid the photograph across the desk to Alexander. He didn't touch it at first, just stared. Then he lowered himself into the chair opposite her. "Helena," he said softly. "So you know her?" He nodded. Everyone knew Helena. Emma waited. Alexander finally picked up the photo, turning it over. She worked here, in communications. One of the youngest hires ever in the strategy division. Bright, creative, fearless. She was going to be head of brand within 5 years. Everyone knew it. "And Cassandra?" Emma asked. "They were close," he said. "Not officially, not publicly, but everyone saw it." "What happened to her?" "She left," Alexander said too quickly. Emma tilted her head. "Just left?" He set the photo down. "Cassandra doesn't talk about her," he said. "No one really does. One day she was just gone. No exit email, no press release, no transfer, just silence." Emma leaned back, breath shallow. "And you never asked why?" "I did," he said. "Once." She waited. She said, "Some stories aren't mine to tell." Silence. Emma reached up and unclasped the chain at the back of her neck. The locket slid into her hand, warm from her skin. She didn't wear it like armor anymore. Today, she held it like a promise. "Do you trust me, Alexander?" His eyes met hers. "Yes." "Then trust me when I say, this isn't just about my presence here. Someone wants this story opened, and they chose me to carry it forward." He looked down at the photograph again. "She was brilliant," he said. "Helena, the kind of person who made you feel seen just by entering a room." Maybe that's why she was erased. Alexander didn't answer, but his silence agreed with her. That afternoon, Cassandra returned from a call in London. She entered the manor with her usual composure, black tailored coat, boots clicking softly against the wood. Emma met her at the base of the stairs. "Walk with me?" Emma asked, echoing Cassandra's own words from earlier. Cassandra raised an eyebrow. "Of course." They took the long hallway toward the library, the tension between them less sharp now, more coiled, like a spring waiting. "I wanted to ask you something," Emma began. "I assumed you would." Emma pulled the photo from her pocket and handed it over without flourish. Cassandra stopped walking. For the first time, her hand trembled. She turned it over, read the line on the back, then slowly, carefully, folded it and held it against her chest, right where Emma's locket had sat hours earlier. "I loved her," Cassandra said, so quietly Emma barely heard. Emma said nothing. "She left before she could be destroyed by this place," Cassandra continued, "before it reshaped her into something she didn't want to become. I told myself I was protecting her, but in truth, I was protecting me." There was a pause. "And now?" Emma asked. Cassandra turned to face her fully. Now there was no mask, no public face, just grief, raw and held tightly for too many years. "Now someone's reminding me what truth costs." Emma watched her, and then said the one thing Cassandra clearly hadn't expected. "I'm not your enemy." Cassandra blinked. "No," she said, "but you're dangerously close to becoming what she could have been." Emma nodded. "And you'll have to decide if that's something to fear or fight for." Cassandra didn't respond. She simply turned and walked away, her hand still holding the photo tight to her chest. That evening, Emma stood at the edge of the estate garden, watching the rain clouds gather over the hills. Alexander joined her. "I spoke with Cassandra," she said. "I figured. She knew Helena better than anyone." He looked out across the trees. "And now you know more than most ever did." Emma nodded. "I think the notes were from someone who loved her too. Maybe someone inside. Maybe someone who still wants justice, quietly." "She deserved more," he said. "So do the women still here." A beat passed. He turned to her, eyes softer than she'd ever seen. "You're changing this place, Emma. I'm just not letting it change me." They didn't speak again for a while. But as the wind picked up and the first drops of rain touched the stone ledge, Alexander reached for her hand, and for the first time, she let him take it. No performance, no audience, just warmth, just truth. And as they stood there, silent and steady, a single email came through on Emma's phone. No subject, no signature, just 2 words. She didn't leave. The email sat open on Emma's screen. No subject, no sender, no attachments, just 2 words. She didn't leave. Emma stared at them as if they might rearrange themselves, as if reading them again would soften their meaning. But they didn't. They stayed exactly as they were. Cold. Simple. Final. She didn't leave. That changed everything. She didn't know if she was shaking from fear or fury. But something within her had settled. The kind of clarity that only comes after too much silence. She closed the laptop slowly, stood, and walked. The house was quiet. Guests were in their rooms. Staff clearing after dinner. She found Alexander alone in the library again, nursing a glass of something dark, staring at the fire. He looked up the moment she entered. "Emma?" She sat across from him. "Someone emailed me." He straightened. "Who?" "I don't know, but it was about Helena." She met his eyes, unwavering. The message said she didn't leave. His expression didn't shift, not right away. But then slowly, something dropped in his posture, like part of him had known, or feared. Emma watched him. "You said she disappeared." "That no one knew where she went." "She was gone by the time I was brought into leadership," he said quietly. "By then it was just an absence." "But you never asked?" "I was told not to," he said, his voice sharper now. "And back then I listened too easily." Emma leaned forward. "Then now we ask." Alexander nodded slowly. "She deserves it." Emma opened her notebook and took out the photograph again. Laid it between them on the table. "Someone wants this known," she said, "but not shouted, remembered, with dignity, quiet truth." He looked at the picture. "I remember her laugh. I remember the feeling of not being allowed to laugh too loud," Emma said. "That's the difference." He glanced at her. "What do you want to do?" "I want to write something," she said. "Not a statement, not a press stunt. Just a letter about her, about people like her, and what we lose when silence becomes policy." Alexander said nothing, then softly, "May I help?" That night in her guest room, Emma sat at the desk her mother would have loved. Wooden. Simple, steady. She wrote for 2 hours, not as an employee, not as a voice that went viral, but as a woman who had fallen, stood, watched others disappear, and finally understood what it meant to stay. She titled the piece, "The Women Who Were Almost Remembered." In it, she didn't name names, but she told the truth. About chairs that break, about voices that vanish, about Helena. Not as a scandal, but as a silence that no longer deserved protection. She ended it with a line her mother used to say, "We don't lose people because they fall. We lose them when we stop asking why they stayed down. She read it twice. Then attached the photo, and at the bottom of the page she signed her name. Not in fear, but in full. Emma Carter. She added one more thing before closing the document, a photo of her locket, captioned, "I wear this for the woman who taught me how to stand. Now I wear it for all of us." She hit send. To one address, Diana Hartley, head of PR. And beneath the subject line, just 2 words, for Helena. The next morning, everything moved fast. Diana replied almost immediately. "Emma, it's perfect, honest, needed. Alexander approved its release to the internal company platform tomorrow morning. You'll be credited, no edits." Emma read the message and exhaled slowly, then cried, not out of fear or joy or regret, just release. That evening, the manor hosted one last dinner for the retreat. More casual, fewer ties, less stiffness. Emma wore the same navy dress from the first dinner, but this time, she didn't check for stains, didn't ask if she looked appropriate. She wore her locket over the fabric, fully visible. She knew who she was now, and it showed. As guests moved through the hall with glasses of wine and soft conversation, Emma stepped out onto the terrace for a moment of air. The sky was dusky blue. The hill stretched wide and still. Alexander joined her minutes later. "She would have liked this view," he said. "Helena?" He nodded. They stood side by side, quiet, until he spoke again. "Tomorrow, when your letter goes live, there will be noise." Emma nodded. "I'm not afraid of noise anymore." He looked at her then, differently. "Neither am I," he said. A long pause, then, "Emma, I don't want to be careful with you anymore." Her breath caught, but not because she didn't expect it. Because she did. Because she didn't want to be careful anymore either. But before either of them could speak again, Cassandra appeared behind them. Her voice low, steady. "You need to come inside, both of you." They turned. Cassandra's face was pale, her hands folded. "Legal just received an internal complaint," she said. "Anonymous, tied to your letter." Emma frowned. "From who?" Cassandra hesitated, then looked straight at Alexander. "It's not just about the letter," she said. "It's about you." Alexander stiffened. "What do you mean?" Cassandra's voice dropped. "Someone's accusing you of favoritism, of compromising leadership decisions, and they're using your relationship with Emma to build the case." Emma's heart slowed, then started again, harder this time. Cassandra looked at her. "I tried to protect you," she said softly, "but it's already in motion." The room was quiet, not the comforting kind, but the kind that holds its breath before something breaks. Emma stood still, shoulders squared, Cassandra's words echoing between them. "Someone's accusing you of favoritism, of compromising leadership decisions. And they're using your relationship with Emma to build the case." Alexander's jaw tensed, but he didn't speak. Emma turned to Cassandra. "Is it real? The complaint?" Cassandra nodded. "Yes, it was filed this morning, anonymously, but strategic enough to cause damage. Especially now that the letter is going public." Emma glanced at Alexander. "Then maybe I shouldn't go public with it." "No," Cassandra said firmly. "That's exactly what they want." For the first time, Cassandra wasn't positioning herself between Emma and the fire. She was standing beside her. "You said once I reminded you of someone," Emma said quietly. "Of Helena." Cassandra looked down. Her voice trembled just once. "You remind me of what I didn't protect, and what I'm not willing to lose again." Emma took a slow breath, then turned to Alexander. "We face this, together." His gaze softened. "Yes." The next morning, the letter went live. It was posted first on the internal Reed Hartley platform. Then, quietly, intentionally, it was released publicly on the company's official page. No edits, no disclaimers, no hiding behind PR filters. And the internet did what it always does. Some cheered, some criticized, some demanded names, others just thanked her. And through it all, Emma stayed centered, not because she wasn't afraid, but because she'd already decided this was worth standing for. The formal inquiry began 3 days later. Emma chose to attend the first meeting, even though her presence wasn't required. She didn't speak, she just listened, head held high, locket visible. Cassandra stood beside her, Diana too, and Alexander. He didn't sit at the head of the table, he sat beside Emma. In the end, the investigation found no evidence of misconduct. But that wasn't the victory. The real win was quieter. When the final report closed and the board members gathered to leave, one of the senior executives paused at the door. An older woman, sharp blazer, silver streak in her hair. She looked at Emma, then reached into her coat and pulled out something small, a gold pin. "I wore this the year Helena arrived," she said softly. "We never spoke much, but I saw how she made people feel, and I saw what happened when she disappeared." She handed the pin to Emma, handed them. No one stood for her then. You did now. It wasn't an official badge, just a keepsake from an older era, worn by women who had quietly kept the company standing when no one noticed. Emma blinked, heart aching, fingers curling around the pin. She didn't say thank you. She just nodded. That was enough. That was... On her last night at Hartley Estate, Emma stood alone on the garden path. The wind was softer now. The storm had passed. She looked down at her locket, then opened it. Inside still was the tiny picture of her mother. But now there was something else. A folded sliver of the letter she had written for Helena. Just one line. "We lose people when we stop asking why they stayed down." She heard footsteps. Alexander, no suit tonight, just a soft sweater and that same quiet stillness that had drawn her in from the very beginning. He didn't speak at first, just joined her under the stars. "I thought I'd lost everything," he said finally. The moment the complaint came in, "My name, my place here, you." Emma turned to him. "You didn't?" He looked at her. "Why not?" "Because I never loved the version of you at the head of the table," she said, smiling. "I loved the one who knelt down when I fell." He didn't say anything. He just stepped closer and gently, slowly kissed her. Not as an ending, but as an understanding. A beginning. Weeks later, back in London, Emma walked into her new office. She was no longer a consultant candidate, no longer a guest at Reed Hartley. She was officially part of the executive branding team, a new role created just for her. Not as a favor, but because she belonged. And waiting on her desk, there was a single envelope. Inside, a note, handwritten by Cassandra. There was another woman before Helena. She never got a letter. You changed that. And taped to the note, her own Reed Hartley gold pin, the official symbol of leadership. Not because of the viral clip, not because of proximity to power, but because she used her voice when it would have been easier to stay silent. That evening, she visited the small cafe across the street, the same one from the day of the fall. She ordered chamomile tea and a lemon shortbread. The same barista smiled at her, but this time she said, "You look like someone who stood through the storm." Emma smiled. "I did." And as she sat by the window, she looked out into the world she used to believe wasn't made for her. Now she knew better. It wasn't about fitting into someone else's seat. It was about standing up and making space for yourself. And maybe, just maybe, for someone else too. The end. Have you ever seen someone rise after falling, not just back to where they were, but even higher? What would you have done in Emma's place? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know your thoughts. And if this story moved you in any way, don't forget to give it a like. Subscribe for more emotional tales like this, and rate this story from 0 to 10. See you in the next story.